So we'll play Nina's video because, like we said, we are not here to lament. Mm-mm. We're not here to complain. Mm-mm. We'll just bring the problem to you, bring the solution, and then explain it to you. That's all we do. Very simple, and it's working. Thank you.
Who used to argue that the constitution is not the problem. It is the people who are managing the constitution that are not doing well. The illiteracy and ignorance of that proposition has been exposed by the recent happenings in the country so that everybody can see that the constitution is at the 1999 constitution, the unitary constitution of Nigeria is at the center of all the problems Nigeria is contending with. And Nigerians too, both the mass impoverishment that has made them global capital for poverty and the gross insecurity that is raging all over the place and the hopelessness, that is growing by the minute. So everybody now realizes that that constitution is the problem. Most people now agree that that constitution have to be changed. The only people who are still arguing about whether it should change or not change are the same people who imposed it and who have also imposed Sharia and who are feudalists because they do not want any democracy. They do not want any union of equal partnership or equal opportunity because they do not believe all men are born equal and they want to hang on to their Sharia in a secular union. So having agreed, let us talk for the majority now and leave the minority that have seceded from the union. The majority, having all agreed on the question of doing away with the unitary constitution that is not working to something that could work. Some have suggested a return to 1963 constitution. Some think National Assembly is the one to do all of what has to be done. But the self-determination collective, those who know better, and I'm not saying it in the sense of boasting, the question of who can make constitution is exactly like asking who can make the memo and articles of a company. It's as straightforward as that. Only the owners of the company, only the shareholders, the promoters, people who come together to submit their assets and take the risk of going into formation of a company can make their memo and article. It is after they've done all of that that they now hire a management to run their company. So it's not the management of the company that will make the memo and article. That's how simple it is. Going back to constitution, who can make constitution? It is the constituents, those bringing their sovereignties together, that can make any document that can become constitution. Those who could be countries of their own, if not for the union they form. The Yoruba, for instance, would be a country of 50-60 million people if Nigeria were to cease to be today. The eastern Nigeria, the lower Niger, that's the eastern half of southern Nigeria, the south and southeast, as we have it in this map, would be a country of more than 70 million people if Nigeria was not occupying their space today. In the middle belt, we could be talking about anything between 40-45 million. That would be, these are the owners of the sovereignties that are, aggregated into what we call Nigeria. But whether that aggregation is of their own making, volition, agreement, or has been a question of hijack is an issue now. At independence, the reason they became one country, all these constituents, the reason they became one country at independence in 1960 was because they had agreed to be a federation. To be a federation, that's a union of otherwise independent units with their full sovereignties, with their constitutions in their hands. We recall that they got all their constitutions in place before they went to Lancaster House to finalize the terms of becoming one political union. So that if those discussions of Lancaster House did not, sail through, the Western region that had its constitution and self-governance from 1957 will remain a country of its own, growing the way it was growing, with all its assets and its, rights to work those assets unhindered. The same thing with Eastern Nigeria, the same thing with Northern Nigeria of the time. But it was because of the agreement they reached to be a union of, autonomous regions that had control over their sovereignties, their assets, and their rights to work those assets. All of that got truncated by 1966 when the coups happened and the 5 constitutions that defined the union got toppled. I had to go into all of that in order to lay the ground for us to understand what this restructuring debate is all about. And I'm speaking to it now from the perspective of the self-determination collective. All of those who say the imposition represented by this current constitution, is no longer acceptable to them because it has become a union of death, a union of backwardness, a union of attrition for them. And so some want out. The whole Dua Republic campaign, the Biafra Republic campaign, all of those who are saying restructure back to 1963, all of those who are saying resource control, they are saying exactly the same thing. They want something they decide for themselves, and that is the meaning of self-determination. All those agitations and demands are being driven by the desire for self-determination. Whether it is restructuring or Odua Republic or resource control or Biafra Republic, all of those are being driven by only one desire: self-determination. And what is that self-determination? Because there's also this confusion including in high places. Many think that self-determination automatically translates to independence, secession, leaving the union. No, self-determination simply means what it says: to determine for yourself how you live in your space. And that self-determination could be one in which you are satisfied with 80% autonomy instead of 100. 80% autonomy will take you back to what you had in 1963 constitution, where the regions had control of their assets and contributed only 15% to the center. The one that could be 100% is one in which some of those who now say they want to leave the union are complaining about the Sharia and the feudalism and the arrogance of those who impose those two. In this map you see, that is their preliminary objection. I am speaking as one who had worked with all of them for over 20 years, whether it was in the Yoruba space where Gani Adams and his compatriots picked up arms to question the internal security arrangements of Yoruba land. I've had the privilege on behalf of the project to ask the leaders of all those agitations, eyeball to eyeball, why are you saying what you're saying? Why are you doing what you're doing? And I can report to us that they are only insisting on their right to determine for themselves how they operate and how they live in their spaces. And so, having established that it is the desire for self-determination that is driving all the agitation, it now comes to be decided. The only other thing that will be remaining to be decided will be the question of the degree of autonomy. It's only the degree of autonomy that varies between those who seek exit, outright exit. They want 100% autonomy. Odua Republic, Biafra Republic, the Igbohos of this world, the Nnamdi Kanus of this world, they may not be able to explain it the way we're explaining now, but that is what they want: 100% autonomy. The people who are talking about restructuring and who are pointing us back to 1963 constitution are also discussing the same self-determination, but they will be satisfied with 80% autonomy, so that there's a union office to manage the balance of 20%. There are also people who are saying that the states as we have them now, let us devolve power down to them. There is an anomaly in that suggestion. There's an ignorance driving that suggestion. It is not the center that will devolve power to the federating units. In a federation, it is the federating units that donate power that become the power. All the power the center will have must come from the federating units. And so the argument of devolution of power is illiterate, is ignorant, and those canvassing it should go and find out the meaning of federation. Should go and find out whether it is the company that creates its shareholders and its owners, or the owners that create the company. What that suggestion is like saying, let this company now appoint who will own it. It is a reverse logic.
It is a reverse logic. How would they know what is what is the right logic?
Well, we know it. We have come here to sit. If you don't know it, you clear from road.
How would it make sense to them, right? Because it would be the right thing to do. So, black man in a dark continent, like somebody will say, will never want light in that continent, which our children are saying no to. They will not be in the dark continent because you chose not to die. You chose not to do the right things. You chose to cover your ear or become an ostrich. You put your head in the sand and your butt is sticking out in the open.
And you know what? The beauty of this whole machinery that we are running as the people is that union is collapsing as we speak.
There's no union.
And the first people, yes, there's no union, my dear. And the first people that will be the casualty are those that put their heads and said, we will not fix it.
Mm-hmm.
You politicians, you church leaders, you think you run away. No, you can't. You see how they're using shovel to hit Oyedepo on social media. This one will be real. This one is not the social media hitting. Boom. As this message continues to spread like oil down, he has gone. He's not coming back. This word, this machinery can only hit targets. The ball is rolling. It can only hit targets. It's like pregnancy. It can only come out. What is inside can only come out. That's what we're promising those that are following us, those that have been following us for a long time, sharing our video. We've been on this campaign for some time. But we are telling you that this campaign, you see this ball, it must hit targets. Because that's how it was structured to end. So please continue to share, like, and subscribe.